Friends, today we are going to talk about the true story of a man who, because of a rock, struggled between life and death for 127 hours. Perhaps you're thinking, just 5 days. But wait, he spent those 5 days in the same place, in the same condition. He couldn't move, couldn't go anywhere, because one of his hand was trapped under a heavy rock in such a way that there was only one way out, to cut off his own hand and leave it behind the rock. He broke his own bones. He heard the sound of them breaking and pulled himself out from death's grip alive. This is a story of human courage, resilience, and the sheer will to live. So friends, please watch the video till the end, because this isn't just a story, it's one of life's greatest lessons. And yes, if you're new to our channel, please subscribe once, because your one click gives us immense strength to move forward. So, without further delay, let's begin today's heart-wrenching true story. This story begins with Aron Ralston. Aron Ralston was born on October 27, 1975 in Ohio, USA. He was a mechanical engineer and loved trekking in the mountains alone, climbing and exploring dangerous terrains. At that time, he lived alone in Colorado, USA. Now the story begins on April 26, 2003. It was a Saturday. 27-year-old Aron Ralston set out for trekking in a narrow and dangerous canyon called Blue John Canyon, located in Utah, USA. This place is in a remote desert area where humans are rarely seen. Aron hadn't told anyone where he was going, neither friends nor family. He parked his car, took out his bicycle and covered a few kilometers. Then, leaving the bicycle, he proceeded on foot towards the narrow canyon. The supplies he had were very limited. A small bag with some food and drink, only 350 milliliters of water, a multi-tool knife, a camera and some ropes. On the way, he met two hikers, Megan and Christy. He was very friendly. He showed them a hidden water pool, shared a few laughs and then moved on alone. In the afternoon, he reached an extremely narrow and deep canyon. Such canyons are called slot canyons, where there are high walls on both sides and just a small passage in between. Aron had been to these parts many times before, but on that day, fate was about to test him. As he jumped down from a rock, the boulder beneath his foot shifted. The boulder fell with him, and as it fell, it brutally trapped his right hand between the canyon wall and another rock. He was stuck. His entire body was free, but his right hand was completely crushed under the rock. It was no ordinary rock. It weighed over 360 kilograms. The stone wouldn't budge at all. He screamed, shouted, called for help, but there was no one around. The canyon was so narrow that his voice couldn't travel far. Then he began trying to free himself. First, he tried to pull his hand out with all his might. Then, he started trying to chip away at the rock with his multi-tool knife. But the rock was extremely hard sandstone and his knife was very flimsy. It couldn't cut the rock, nor was the knife working properly. Slowly, evening approached. The temperature began to drop. Only a few sips of water were left in his bottle. He understood that if no miracle happened, he would die trapped in that very spot. He took out his camera and started recording, talking to himself, describing his condition and even recording last messages for his parents and friends. And there was still a full 127 hours left. 27 साल के Aron Ralston was now बुरी तरह badly trapped under a 360 kilogram rock. It was the afternoon of April 26th. By evening, Aron realized this was no small crisis. He tried everything, pushed the rock, chipped at it with his knife, tried to scrape his hand free by rubbing against the walls, but nothing worked. The darkness of night completely engulfed the narrow crevice. The place was so tight that he could neither sit nor lie down properly. Aron had to stay awake all night, groaning from the pain in his trapped hand. The first night passed without food, without adequate water. He only had a small water bottle, about 350 milliliters. The next morning, he started his efforts again. He knew his body couldn't last long without water and food. With every hour, he was losing strength. He started video recording with his camera, as if making his own diary. In the camera, he would describe his situation, sometimes smiling, sometimes crying, sometimes hoping, and sometimes accepting that he might not survive. Days passed. By the third day, his water bottle was empty.
Then he started drinking his own urine to keep some moisture in his body. To stave off hunger, he started eating his remaining food in tiny portions, but that too soon ran out. Now, his mental state also began to falter. He started to hallucinate. He saw faces of his family, sometimes his mother, sometimes childhood memories, sometimes friends. He would talk to himself, give himself courage, and sometimes shout loudly, hoping someone far away might hear. Every night, he shivered in the cold winds. During the day, when the sun's rays reached the narrow spot, he felt some warmth, but it also made his skin burn. By the third day, the color of his hand had started to change. Blood flow had completely stopped. The hand was swollen and slowly the flesh began to rot. He started to understand that this hand might not be salvageable. On the fourth day, he began to consider a drastic decision. He knew that if he wanted to get out alive, he would have to cut off his own hand. But the knife he had was a cheap multi-tool with a very dull blade. It couldn't cut through bone. So Aaron waited until his hand had decomposed enough for the flesh and nerves to weaken. He began to prepare himself mentally. On the fifth day, his condition was extremely poor. His face was swollen, lips chapped, and his body had almost no energy left. But a dream, or rather a vision of the future, suddenly showed him something. A small child playing with him. Aaron became convinced this was his future, and he would definitely survive. And right there, Aaron made the decision that became one of the greatest examples of human courage and willpower. What happened next is one of the most painful yet most inspirational events in the world. 5 days had passed. Aaron Ralston was still trapped in the same place, in that narrow crevice under the same rock. Water had run out, food had finished on the first day. Now he was using fluid from his own body to quench his thirst. His lips were dry and chapped. His eyes were sunken. His body felt lifeless. His right hand was now almost non-functional. There was no movement, no pain. There was nothing lifelike left in it. And now Aaron made a decision that is beyond the imagination of any ordinary person.
On the morning of May 1, 2003, Aaron Ralston decided to free himself from that rock. He had a small, multi-purpose but weak tool. There was no medicine, no doctor, no help there. Just his courage, or himmat, that forced him to take the first step towards freedom. He first bent his trapped arm between two rocks in a specific way, causing the two large bones within to snap. He himself heard the sound of that moment, a sharp crack in the silent desert that reached straight to his soul. Now it was time to physically sever that part. He began to carefully cut through his outer skin and tissues. With the weak tool, this process was long and difficult, but with every cut, he was getting closer to his life. The most difficult moment came when he had to sever the nerves and tendons deep within his body that are directly connected to the brain. Every time he touched them, it felt like a jolt of electricity surging through him. Yet he persisted. Within about an hour, he had freed himself from the rock. Without any external help, without losing consciousness, he bandaged himself with a piece of cloth and then, with one hand, began to climb the wall of the narrow crevice. Even after climbing about 15 meters high, his struggle wasn't over. From there, he had to walk about 9 kilometers in the desert. Amidst the heat, weakness and exhaustion, his body was about to give up, but his spirit was still alive. About 6 hours later, he saw a group in the distance, some tourists. They saw him, weak, tired, in tattered clothes, covered in dust, but still alive. They immediately called for help. Soon a rescue team arrived and he was airlifted to a hospital. 127 hours later, Aaron Ralston was free from under that rock, incomplete but with full courage. Later, when the rescue team reached the spot, they saw how heavy the rock was, about 360 kilograms. It took 13 people and special equipment to move it. Even today, that rock is still there, now known as Ralston's Rock. But the story doesn't end here.
That same year, Aaron started climbing mountains again. Slowly, he not only climbed but also conquered his inner fear, pain, and weakness. With one hand, he climbed many high mountains, even reaching the base camp of Mount Everest. He shared his ordeal with the world. Books were written, documentaries were made, and in 2010, a film based on this entire incident, 127 Hours, was released, in which actor James Franco played his role. This is a story of struggle, determination, and human willpower. When everything seems lost, if there's a will in the mind, a person can do what the whole world considers impossible. This was the true story of Aron Ralston's 127 Hours. If you've listened to this whole story, remember that life always gives you another chance. You just need to have the courage. Thank you, friends, for watching this video till the end. A heartfelt thank you. Now a question for all of you. Just think, if you were in that person's place, would you have been able to keep yourself alive in such circumstances? Would you also have shown the courage to lose a hand and return to life? This wasn't just a story. It was an example of human resilience. The comment section is open. Do tell us what you would have done if you were in a similar situation. And friends, if you like this video, please share it with your friends. We will meet again with another true and inspirational story. Until then, bye and thank you.